We're on DSTV channel 361, Go TV 179. We're also streaming on Facebook at GH1 TV. Let's start from Parliament. As some members of Parliament on Monday night were engaged in a fist fight following a disagreement during the voting of government's E-levy bill. The fight ensued when the MPs were voting in a head count to decide whether the E-levy bill should be accepted under the certificate of urgency. The minority had attempted to stop the first Deputy Speaker, Joseph Osei-Owusu, who was presiding over the House, from the leaving of his seat and taking part in the voting process. This infuriated the majority MPs who met them at the Speaker's table to challenge the NDC MPs. The minority MPs explained that Mr. Osei-Owusu, while in the position of Speaker, does not have a casting vote. Prior to the sitting, the majority had held a press conference stating the whereabouts of the Speaker, Alban Bawing, was unknown. However, since the bill had been laid before the House, the first Deputy Speaker took over precedence in the House. During deliberations, the minority MPs challenged the decision by the majority MPs to place the bill under a certificate of urgency. Although a voice vote was taken, with the second Deputy Speaker ruling in favor of the majority, the NDC MPs called for a head count instead. Our parliamentary correspondent Ibrahim Alasan joins us over the phone lines to give us an update on what happened in Parliament last night. Now, Ibrahim, good morning. Many thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Afiriwa.
Apologies for waking you up this early, because we understand Parliament, adjourned meeting very late, but we've been able to get you this morning. Now, can you tell us what led to the exchange of blows between the majority and the minority members of Parliament?
Well, a single decision on the part of the first Deputy Speaker, who has taken over the seat from his second Deputy, Joseph Osei-Owusu, who decided to partake in the head count as you mentioned, otherwise known in parliamentary parlance as division. So, when a division is called, a question is put again, and the question, the vote is taken by voice vote. Once that voice vote is taken, and the Speaker rules that the ayes have it or the nays have it, each side is reserved the right to challenge them. And once that challenge is done, that's when it comes to head count. So the decision by the first Deputy Speaker to partake in the voting, and that's the head count, while he was not originally part of the voice vote, was what generated the furore that consequently resulted in the fisticuffs. And for the first time in the history of Parliament, there were exchange of blows. In fact, I can tell you that the Minister for Youth and Sport, Mustafa Yusuf, sustained some injuries and had to visit the doctors, had to go to the hospital to get treatment because of that. In fact, there were cases where members of Parliament were thrown from the dais onto the floor of Parliament. In fact, there was one MP who landed onto the chairs that are occupied by the officials of the table office. So it was a direct question as to what resulted in the fisticuffs as the decision by the first Speaker to partake in the voting process, even though per Article 109, per Order 109 of the Final Orders of Parliament, once a Deputy Speaker is presiding, that Deputy Speaker loses his or her original vote. And the original vote is the vote you have as a Member of Parliament. In this case, the original vote will have been if you were seated on a seat as Member of Parliament of the Kwai, that voice vote that he could have taken, which resulted subsequently in the call for division for a head count. So, of course, and I'm sure you find out what next. But to answer your question directly, it was just singular decision from Joseph Osei-Owusu that resulted in the furore and then the physical.
All right. Why was the Speaker not in Parliament last night?
Well, so yesterday, in fact, it started from last week, Friday to Saturday, when the House had to take an adjournment after it had approved the appropriation bill. It was just one item liner for yesterday, and that item was the E-levy. So yesterday, when the House reconvened, the Finance Committee was asked to go and deal with the E-levy. It spent a number of hours there, voting clause by clause. Subsequently, it was agreed upon by the committee, even though by a split decision, that bill, the E-levy bill, be taken by a certificate of urgency. Now, when that decision was taken, it was left with the committee to put together a report. And that report took quite some time to be ready. So at the point, the speaker who presided the Anaba Bagwin kept demanding from the leaders of government business that report must be tabled. But what he got was a number of other agreements, a number of other bills that had not been settled when he was taking the adjournment last week, Saturday. So the speaker at the point wondered why the House had suspended sitting, had adjourned to yesterday just to take the E-levy bill, but the E-levy bill was still outstanding. And that was what resulted in his suspending sitting and subsequently leaving the presence of Parliament. So, yes, you argue that it was in protest of the other outstanding businesses that had not been scheduled that he was being given to take instead of the E-levy. That resulted in the Speaker leaving the presence of Parliament.
All right, thank you very much, Ibrahim. Ibrahim Alasan is our parliamentary correspondent here at the EIB network, and he will definitely be seated in Parliament today to bring us updates as sitting proceeds today.